Hello guys, this is Ibrahim Rahman from Ardy. Welcome back to another video in the HTML series. In today's video, we are going to look at an overview on the HTML tags, elements, and attributes. Hopefully you enjoyed the video and learned something new. So let's get started. HTML pages are made up of elements, tags, and attributes. Of course, the three key areas are the bedrock of all the information we see on a web page, because if you want to add any information on your web page, you must make sure to pay key attention on these three main areas, as they will serve as a guiding stone in order to help you to display the information in the correct way so that the browser can render it for us in the best possible way. Of course, when we talk of tags, tags are nothing but the keywords that provide instructions to the web browser on how to display and format information on our web page. Now, let's say, for instance, if you want to add an image on your web page, definitely you must need an image tag. This image tag will now tell the browser that this is the information I want you to display for the user. And without the use of the image tag, it will be very difficult for the browser to understand that this user wants to display this information on his web page. Of course, when we talk of tag also, they are enclosed in angular brackets. For instance, we have this left angular bracket and the right angular bracket, just like when we have less than and greater than. Whatever that is added within these two angular brackets is referred to as the tags. So they allow, or they tell the browser to display information in a particular format on a web page. Of course, when we talk of tags, we have opening and closing tags. Even though there are some tags which are self-closing tags, but most of the time, or greater percentage of the information that is displayed on web pages are being displayed using opening and closing tag. For instance, let's say we want to add an information on the web page, but we want to make use of the paragraph tag. Of course, we need to open a curly brace, then we use the P, okay, the P character, okay. So this is the opening P tag. And as well, in order for us to close this P tag, we need to add the angular bracket again, together with a forward slash and a P again. So this is the closing tag. Of course, the closing tag is identified from this forward slash. Okay, so tags are normally provided with what's opening and closing. So whatever information that is added here, or whatever content that is added here, it makes up of the entire tags. Now, let us look at a typical example of a tag. Of course, I told you we have the opening tag here, of course, the opening angular bracket and the closing angular bracket. So you add the tag here. Of course, for the closing, it normally has what? This forward slash. It normally has the forward slash. If we take a look, we have angular bracket here, as well as this side again, angular bracket. But what differentiates the two is that this second tag has what? A forward slash in front of the P. So it has the forward slash in front of the P. So this entire block is the opening tag. This entire block we are seeing is the opening tag, whereas this is the closing tag. So take note of this. The closing tag is always identified with this forward slash, even though, like I told you earlier, there are some tags which are self-closing tags. So this is the opening tag and this is the closing tag. So we have opening and closing. So whatever that is added within this opening and closing tag will be referred to as what? The content. So these are the tags. Now, and of course, we also have the same example here again. We have opening here and closing here as well. Okay, then this is the content. This is the content. Okay. Now, there are a vast number of tags we are to use when developing our web pages or when designing our web page. But interestingly, there are some tags that we don't often see. Yes, so you can go through this list of tags and you can see the most common ones that we normally use in developing our web page. For example, here we have the H1 to H6 tag. We also have the head tag, the header tag, yeah, the horizontal rule tag, the HTML tag, and the likes. And of course, we also have the EM tag. We also have the audio tag. We also have the doc type. Of course, these are all common tags that we normally use in our web pages. Another key thing we also need to look at when developing our web pages is elements. Of course, I told you the tags tell the browser how to display information on a specific format, on a specific pattern. Okay, so the elements here now are nothing but the building blocks of HTML. Yes, the elements are the building blocks. So this simply means the combination of the opening tag, the opening tag, the opening tag, the combination of this and the closing tag as well, and the closing tag as well, together with the content, together with whatever content that will be displayed here, it's referred to as what? The elements. So the combination of the opening tag, closing tag, and the content is the element. Okay, so this element determines the content that will appear on the web page. For example, this is an anchor tag. Okay, this is an anchor tag. So the combination of this anchor, opening anchor and closing anchor, makes up what? This entire anchor element. So this depicts that the information that you are about to display on your web page is a link, so that users can either click on it to be navigated to another page or what have you. So the elements are building blocks in HTML. They are made up of opening and closing tags together with the content. Let us look at an example here. For this one, the combination of this opening paragraph and this closing paragraph together with the content here is the HTML element. Okay, so if we can see, we have opening tag here for the paragraph, and we have the closing paragraph here again for this entire element. So this is the content, my paragraph. So if you run this now on the browser, what you will see, you will not see these tags. These tags will not be shown on your web page. Let us understand this. The tags will not be shown on your web page. The reason being, these are just directors. They direct you. They give directives to the browser that we want you to display this information on your web page. So the combination of opening and closing tag together with the content is what we refer to as what? An element. So next, let us look at the attribute. Of course, there are certain elements when we provide them to the browser, we need to back up, we need to add certain information or certain description to those elements so that the browser can further understand what the information they want to display means. Of course, they give additional value to our tags. They give additional value to our tags. So let us see an example here. Now, for instance, here we have the name of the tag. After that, we have the attribute here and the value here. Okay, the attribute will be here and the value will be added here. And this, of course, is the closing tag. Then the content will now be added on this side. Take note, the content is always in between the opening tag, and the closing tag. The content is always in between the opening and the closing tag. Now, let's look at an example here. This is an image tag. Okay, this is an image tag. So now we have what we call here source. The source here is the attribute name. The source here is the attribute name. Of course, if we are using the image tag, we must give a path. Yes, a path to an image. We must give a path to an image. whether it is an absolute path or a relative path. So we must give a path. So here, this source attribute tells the browser that we want you to add an image, a bad image. Of course, this is a JPG image. So we want you to add a bad image, but we want you to look at this direction. Go to this location, it is there. So this source attribute is telling the browser where to fetch this image. Of course, it is the value. Like I told you earlier, it is the value. So this is the attribute name and this is the value. Okay. Now we also have another attribute, which is what? The alternate, the alt attribute. This attribute says, now let's say for instance, the location you want to fetch this image is not found. Yes, let's say this location cannot be found. So if this location or this image is not present where it's supposed to be, then we need this alternate tag to display something on the browser, that photo of bad, that this image is not existing. There are times, there are a couple of times when you try to search for an image within, let's say, the website. If the browser tries to search for this image, if it is not there, then definitely there will be an alternate text that will be shown. Or there are times the image is there, but when you hover on the image, then you will see on the like when you hover on the image, you see something like um, a small text that will be shown. Yes, a small text that will be shown that this is an image of a bird. So this is the essence of attribute. The attribute here gives additional value. It gives additional information to the image you want to provide on the web browser. So let's understand this. So this is the source attribute and this is the alternate attribute. Okay. So how do we add attributes? Of course, this you just add the attribute name, an equal to sign, and the value. The value here is the location of this image. For this alternate now, this value here we are seeing add just gives an additional information about this image, whether the image is present or not, or whether to display a short text of the image. So HTML is built upon the elements, the tags, and the attributes. Once you've understood all this concept, then it will be very easy for you to understand all the other areas. So let us now move on to our code editor and see the implementation of all what we've learned. We are now in our VS Code editor and we are about to demonstrate how to create tags, elements, as well as attributes. Um, First of all, let's create a new folder. Of course, I already have a folder here. So all you need to do is to navigate to the directory where you want to create the folder, either on your desktop or whatever location you chooses. That will be fine. Um, let's create a new file. So click on this icon or we click on file, create a new file. Okay, so I'll just click on this icon. Let's call this file um, home.html. Okay, this is our file, and of course let us add the boilerplates. Of course, I've told you in one of our tutorials that in order for you to add the boilerplates, you hold shift and 1 from your keyboard. You definitely see the emit abbreviation, then you press enter, then you now have this boilerplate. The boilerplate is now here. So our next step is for us to see how we create tags. It is simple. Now, of course, I told you tags provide key instructions to the browser on how to display or format the information that is displayed on the web page. So in order for us to create a tag, we use the opening angular brackets, this one, opening angular brackets, the name of the tag, then closing angular bracket. This is how we create the opening tag, the opening angular bracket, the name of the tag, and the closing angular bracket. Then of course, in order for us to create the closing tag, we use the opening angular bracket, the forward slash, and the name of the tag together with the closing angular bracket. Okay, like for example, if we want to create a paragraph tag, all we need to do is for us to type opening angular brackets, the name of the tag, and the closing angular bracket. Okay, but if you can observe something, the code editors made something simple for us now. Now, if you take a look, if we just create the opening tag, it will automatically complete it for you. So you don't have to stress yourself in creating tags. Okay, you don't have to stress yourselves. Just that you must understand that in order to create a tag, you need the opening tag, the name of the tag, and the closing tag. Now, for instance, let's say we want to create a H1 tag. The moment you type H1 and press enter, what will happen? The code editor will now complete everything for you. So you see, if you want to create a paragraph tag, just type P from the keyboard and press enter. But take note, before pressing enter, I've told you the essence of this emit abbreviation. So we can press enter and it will auto-complete it for us. Now, for example, if I want to display a paragraph tag or an information on a paragraph tag, all I need to do, create a paragraph tag, then you type something, okay, the content. So I'll just say, this is the paragraph tag. Okay, this is the paragraph tag. So if we now go to our web browser and try to preview this, so you see, this is our paragraph tag. Why are we saying this? It is because of the paragraph tag. Let's say I also want to use another tag. Let's say H1. So in order for you to create the H1 tag, just type H1 from your keyboard. Okay. Then if you press enter, the emit abbreviation will autofill everything for you. So I will just say hello world. So if we go back to the browser, you see we have hello world. This is all possible because of the tags. Now, let us look at the next item here, which is the element. Of course, I told you elements are the building blocks, okay, of HTML. They comprise of what? The opening tag, the closing tag, and the content. So we say the elements comprise of the opening tag, the closing tag here, and the content. The content is here. So you see, we have the opening tag here, we have the closing tag here, and the content. So together we can combine all of this. We can combine all of this to be what? The elements. Okay. So we can combine the opening, the closing, as well as the content to what? The element. So in a nutshell, the element is a combination of the opening tag, the content, and the closing tag. Let's say, for example, I want to display a text on my browser from the H3 tag. So I'll just say H3. So you see, this is the tag, you press enter. So we now have the opening tag, the closing tag. Okay, this is the opening, this is the closing. So now all we need to enter here is the content. Let's say this is just for testing. Okay, so this is an example of a element. Okay, this is the element. So we have opening H3, closing H3, as well as the content. So you see, guys, it is very simple to add information on your web page. So let us look at attributes as well. Of course, I told you attributes provide additional information about a tag. Yes, it provides additional information about a tag. For example, for now, we are not seeing any attribute here. Okay, the reason being is because we don't want to provide additional information for this tag. Okay, so attributes can best be described in this case. For example, let's take an anchor tag. Okay, just type A, you press enter from the keyboard. So we have the complete tags here now. So you see, this is the attributes. Okay, so here we want to give a specific location wherein if we click on this link, it will be direct us where? It will redirect us to another location. Let's say, for example, let us add another page here. Let's call this about.html. We have another page here. We add the the boilerplate, and from there, let's type something. Let's say H1, welcome to the about page. So we have another page here. So if we are to preview this on the browser. So we have about page. So we go back to our code editor. So here we want to click this button, and at the end of the day, this button should take us or should redirect us to the about page. So let's say go to about. So here I'll just put the link of the about page. What's the link of the about page? It is very simple. Just type about about.html, the exact name of the HTML file. So if we go back to our browser, so you see, go to about. So if I click on this link, I'll be redirected to where? The about page. Okay, I can do the reverse of this again. I'll still go to the about page. Here, type the anchor A, press enter. We have the full tag. I want to create a link so that when I click that link, I'll be redirected to the home page. So in here, the address will just be what? Home. So you see home.html. So here I will say back to home. Okay. So you see, we have the link here now, back to home. So if I click this link, I'll be redirected to the home page. If I click this link again, so I'll be redirected to the about page. So you see, so the attribute provides additional information to the web page. Let's just do something special here. Let's say I want to add an image, okay, on the home, the about page rather. All I will need to do, I'll just say img tag, okay, which is responsible to display the images on our websites. So if we press enter, we have two attributes here. We have the source attribute and the alternate attribute, okay? Now, these attributes provides additional information to this tag. Of course, for the source attribute, it gives you the possibility to add the location where you want to fetch this image. It gives you the possibility, it gives you the leverage, okay, to add the location where you want to fetch this image. And the alternate attribute here, it signifies that assuming we are not able to fetch this image, then definitely we want a text to display here. Yes, we want a text to display. If we are not able to fetch the image, then we want a text to display. Let's just see the example here. Now I'll go back to my project folder. So you see we have the home and about. Let me just take an image that I'll put here for the time being. Let me look for an image that I will use for the time being. So I will say, okay, let me just use this. For example, I'll take this image. Okay, let me just use this. I'll take this image. So I will name this image to something like, you can choose whatever name you want to choose. Let's say img1. This is the name of my image. Then I'll close this, go back to my code editor. So you see, this is the image, img. So in here, I will add the name of the image. I'll say img1. So you see, the moment you start typing, now you have an autocomplete field here. So you see img1.jpg. So we press enter. So this is the location of the image. And of course, if I try to preview this image, then definitely I can say it's okay. So let us go to our web browser and see if it is possible for us to see this image. So let's preview this. So you see, we have the image, but it's large. So let us reduce the size. I will decrease the size by saying width. Let's just leave it to 200 pixels for now. So you see, we have the image here. Okay, now this is fine. But if we go back to the image tag and of course we have the alternate attribute here. So let's add something here that this image cannot be found. This image cannot be found. Now, if we go back to our browser, of course, this image cannot be found. It's not here. The reason being, it is because the image is actually seen and the information about the image here is correct. Let's say we remove the G, okay, from the extension. So if we go back, so you see the image is not displaying any longer. So you see the alternate attribute is saying what? This image cannot be found. So you see the attributes gives additional information to our tags. Okay, they gives additional information to our tags. So guys, this is quite simple. So this is all about the HTML, the tags, the HTML element, as well as the HTML attributes. Of course, in our next couple of videos, we'll see how to add more attributes and how we can play with complex elements as well as tags. So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you on the next video. Thank you.